So video sales letters. What I want to do is talk to Ian about these things. And I want to start with the opportunity. So we, in the emails that both of us sent, we talked about VSLs still being one of the best opportunities for copywriters in 2018. I definitely think that's true. I think this is probably the best place as far as monetarily where you can start, where you can make the most money is with VSLs if you are a copywriter, both on the business side, but a little bit more specifically on the freelancer side. So Ian, can you just kind of walk us through why right now VSLs are probably the best place for people to get started with copywriting, or the thing that they should probably focus on if they want to make more money copywriting?
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, the skills that we're teaching for VSLs apply to normal sales letters as well. So it doesn't have to be specifically VSLs. However, there are big advantages to VSLs. One of them, which, we talked about a little bit in the email, which is you control the process, right? I mean, you get to control what they see in what order, which is what you want when you are selling things. But as far as why is this still such a big thing? The reality is, I mean, again, it could be a sales page, but the medium of video allows for so much creativity. And especially with some of the stuff that we teach in a VSL course, I've done so many VSLs and so many demonstrations. And I was just watching Shark Tank as I was eating some food, and every single Shark Tank presentation starts with some sort of demonstration. And VSLs allow you to do that. So it doesn't have to be the old school PowerPoint type VSL. In fact, a lot of those can have some issues. So now I think more than ever, if you can actually be creative in some way and have a unique view of things that's not just let me fill out this PowerPoint, VSL, like the old John Benson style, oh, this is a lug nut. And in 3 minutes, I'm going to show you how this lug nut can screw you hard, or can, help you lose 16 pounds in 14 minutes, or whatever it is. More so than ever, we're in the era of transparency, and video allows for such a deeper bond than just about anything else. I've found that across the board with any clients I've worked with, by putting someone on camera, we get about a 30% lift. And that's just from
text.
Literally, even if they already have a VSL, just putting a human on camera for the first 30 seconds will get a lift, because there's a trust happening. There's oh, this is a person. It can't be a total scam, or this person's going to get in trouble. So I just think it makes a big difference to be able to do that, and to be able to do it from a more creative perspective really makes a big difference. But also, you can charge a lot of money just to go in and rewrite the lead for a VSL if you're a freelancer, or you can charge a lot just to go. One of the biggest opportunities, I think, is rewriting people's upsells. And video tends to work really well in an upsell, especially if you use video on the front end. And a lot of people don't do that. It's pretty shocking, actually. The people whose whole business front end is all about video, and then you get to their upsell page and it's just some text. And the chances are that there's a massive lack of congruency going on from the initial front end offer to the upsell. And simply by putting a video on that upsell page, you can typically get a lift. So yeah, and there's just so much you can do and test.
Yeah. So you're defining VSL in this case is really just any video script, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be when I say PowerPoint style, I think you guys probably know, you've seen a video and it's just one slide at a time, and it's typically pretty cheesy and it can be boring, and those can work very well still. And it's a good place to start testing, but there's so much more you can do with video than you can do with, just traditional sales letters. But you can also just use the same principles to test text sales letters. I think they're interchangeable in a lot of ways, but understanding some of the nuance of video can be very beneficial.
So do you think for copywriters coming into a business that still telling the client or advising the client that you're going to help them rewrite some of their video related scripts is still kind of the best way to go about things?
Yeah, I mean, I just got a private message that was quite funny. I thought it was for the whole chat, and it turns out it wasn't. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess I mean I don't want to like sit here and be like VSL is the only way. Like
Yeah.
there's advantages to all sorts of different ways of doing things. But I do believe that video is only becoming more and more popular in a world full of people who have no attention span. People want video and they want entertainment. They want to be entertained when they're watching videos. And that's something that very few people can do well. And I mean, I still will always use video whenever I can. And the people on this call are probably a smaller subsection of society who actually likes to read. I like to read. I prefer a text sales letter. But that's the minority of people. So anytime you can speak to the modality that most people are used to, I mean, most Americans, most humans are not spending their Wednesday nights reading books. They're spending their nights watching Netflix and Hulu and, whatever else it is. So they're used to video. That's their typical consumption model.
Got it. All right. So I feel like that's a good segue into kind of grounding people. And the people watching this call probably have a pretty good understanding of who you are, but can you give us just a little bit of context as it comes to videos, like who you are in this space? Because you've carved out for yourself a very interesting niche as it relates to consulting and freelancing, but you've also written a lot of video for your own products and you recently sold a business. So can you just kind of give people a general sense of who you are as it relates to video and videos?
Yes. So my video background is an interesting one. And real quick, I am going to show you guys how I set up my contracts at the end of the call. It's a little bait for you to stick around, to be perfectly blunt about it. But yeah, as far as videos go, I mean, the first video I did that got traction and has sort of oddly built a career for me was one where I drank out of a toilet in a public bathroom. I did use a water filter, but that was sort of my breakthrough moment of we had been selling this water pitcher with VSLs and it was doing very well. And then I had this idea to drink from a toilet as an ad, and that did even better. And also introduced me to a lot of very high level people and kind of launched things for me. But you don't have to drink from toilets to benefit from video. I also do parodies of people like I do Light Lopez and Very Grinder Chuck and Can't Guard Down and other such people. But the way I've made most of my money through video has been writing actual VSLs. So sometimes those will start out as more text-based PowerPoint VSLs. That was more back in the day. So I worked with a company called Crisis Education that we went from they went from 0 to about 9 million in the first year, and then we did 17.8 million, I think, in the year after, and had put $15 million worth of recurring subscriptions for water filters. And basically that whole company was built on video sales letters. I was writing, I think it was every other week, every 2 weeks or so, I was building a whole new funnel, which would include one front-end VSL, a couple versions of it, and then 3 to 4 videos for upsells. And I got very good at recording them quickly too. So if I was on camera, I could basically speak the copy. But that's something people can do as well, is you can write scripts for like a lot of the bigger influencer type direct response companies who have somebody as the face. You can write their scripts, and you can rewrite the first minute of a script for a video of theirs and get paid $20,000 to do that. I'm not saying that's right off the bat, but you can also scale anything um, up or down based on how much you're charging to do this for people. So actually something I'm going to be doing soon, I just bought this new software that allows you to, I've wanted to do this forever, like since I started writing copy, is write VSLs with like a choose your own adventure, basically. So where at certain points in the video, you can say like, hey, are you a man or a woman? Click here. And then you basically, the rest of the video is directed towards women. Or it's like, especially with the water, what I wanted to do is, do you use a Brita or a Soma filter or this? And then based on which one they watch, they see different branches of that video. I just got a new software I'm going to use for my own stuff and test that out. And I think that'll be really interesting. And I think the people who can utilize that, assuming the software, because I've had the idea for years and people have pulled out softwares, but they always sort of suck. This one's supposed to be good. So I think if you can create choose your own story type sales videos, you're going to make a whole bunch of money, which is probably something we'll share now that I think about it, over the course of the VSL course, because I'm going to be doing it for my own stuff. Awesome. Which is cool because most people are too lazy to do something like that. And it doesn't actually take much effort, but yeah.
Yeah. So you just briefly said that you're going to kind of show us how you structure contracts towards the end of this. Let's just take your biggest contract, I guess.
I'm sorry. I love this mug. I like your it's the best mug.
What's been your biggest contract with the VSL and what did you do specifically?
So my traditional, I thought we were going to share this at the end.
We are going to share it at the end.
Yeah. I'll share the actual way I set it up. So I basically, I charge $20,000 up front. It used to be 15 grand and then 20 grand if I did 3 versions, which I always do 3 versions because I want to take more swings at it. And then based on what percentage it wins by, sometimes it's 1,000 per percent increase or whatever it is. I do 20 to 80 grand for the whole. So another potential additional 80 grand, which could be 100 grand from one sales letter. But that's the thing is I basically, when I talk to clients, and I'll just tell my sort of 3 principles of consulting and freelancing. The first one is everyone wants to get paid monthly, but no one wants to pay monthly. So outside of companies like Agora, who have a structure and foundation to pay royalties, companies don't want to pay royalties. They don't want to pay you monthly. First off, there's an accounting department that has to figure out what they owe you. They have to send you checks. And really it builds resentment because people keep sending you checks 6 months later and then suddenly, they're like, well, this guy hasn't done shit in forever. And then they get angry. Also, you can have a copywriter like me come in and then beat your control and then you stop making money, which I've probably taken money out of some other copywriters' pockets with my version. So then my second principle for freelancing is how do I get them excited to write me a big ass check where they feel like they get to write me a check versus they have to write me a check. So they're like, let's say the top end of the contract is 60 grand or 80 grand. They want to write me that check because they know that if they've written me that one, they're making a lot more than that. And again, that's all scalable. So you could do the same thing and instead of 60 grand, it's 5 grand or maybe it's more, maybe it's 100. But basically and then the third one is what is the least amount of work I can do to get them a win? And that's really where things separate is being able to look at things through the lens of the entire sales funnel, or the lead or the close or the checkout page or the first upsell or adding a downsell or something like that. I go in and I just figure out what's the quickest, easiest thing I can do that could get them a lift. And then I start there. Whereas most people go, I feel like I have to write all this shit because I charge them all this money. And so I'll tell you like the best phrase ever that I write to potential clients is I just put, do you care if I win? Or do you care how much work I do? Or do you care that I win? And they just say, I just care that you win. And I go, cool. Because there's the old Eugene Schwartz story of like, I assume he sounded like this, but he's like, I got a client and, I sat down with him for 4 hours. I don't know why he sounds like this, but I prefer it. And the guy said, he said, he talked about everything and I went home and I wrote the sales letter in 2 hours. And then I sat on it for 2 weeks and then I sent it to him because I didn't want him to know that I did it in 2 hours. Well, for me, those 2 weeks are 2 weeks he could be testing what I've written. So if I talk to a client, like there was a time, and I'll do different stuff. There's a time I rewrote the lead of a of an upsell. It was a video. And I rewrote the first 30 to 45 seconds. I got off the phone with the client. I sat down for 20 minutes. I wrote it. For that, he only paid $1,500 up front, but then it was $5,000 to beat it. So I got paid $6,500, but it was for literally 20 minutes of work. And I sent it to him right after the call because I want him to test it. So yeah, that's sort of.
Okay. No, that's awesome, man. It's extremely impressive. So that's a really good segue as well. How do you get to that point where you're writing something in 20 minutes? And I guess we can kind of segue into how do you write these VSLs and how do we structure these things? Because I'm sure that has something to do with it because you understand that underlying structure, and then you can sit down and crank these things out very quickly over time. Obviously, the first time you go through anything, you're not going to just be able to print something that can make you that much money immediately out. But what's your process? I guess that would be my first question.
Yeah. I mean, my process has changed a lot over the last, few years because I've written so much. But when I was writing VSLs for other people, mainly for the company that I was with, I mean, we had a template. We had a closed template that was already written. We knew the closed format that worked. So that was our price anchoring, our options, everything. And Derek and I have literally, the cool thing is, so yeah, we're going to be talking about the VSL course because we're selling it and it's really awesome. and I'm not going to not talk about it. But the funny thing is like the Ian Stanley and so past Ian, old Ian and Derek, when we did this, I was obsessed. Like I was so into copy all the time and like very meticulous and breaking down everything deconstructing everything I did, basically because I'm inherently very lazy. And working like that on the front means I don't have to do much. And so these days, if I were to write a VSL course now, to be perfectly honest, it would be decent. The VSL course we put together is really, really good because we were so detailed. Like to become great, you do go through this learning process that requires you to understand the fundamental components and building blocks of what you're doing. So, your sales letter is going to have a lead, then it's going to have maybe myth busting as the core foundation of your sales letter. And then you're going to have your transition and a creation story. And then you're going to have a, price anchoring and a close. And then you're going to give them the 3 options. And then you're going to give them the cost of doing nothing and these different things. And it's all broken down like individually. Now, when I write sales letters, I tend to just write stories. I just sit down and it takes me about 45 minutes to an hour typically, and I'll just write a story. And then I'll start to add in different elements that I think are important, like frequently asked questions, things like that. But the process really comes down to, and other people have said this, I'm not the first to say it, is it comes down to your research and your understanding of the audience, and how deep that understanding is.
Okay, let's start there. How do you do research? Because I think I was actually talking to another copywriter today, and he was saying a struggle that he's finding is that a lot of newer copywriters that he's working with, because they work in an agency together, is that they don't know how to critically think, and they don't know how to do the research for themselves when they just get started. So how do you get started with research? Because I think it's a pain point that people have that they don't even know that they have.
Yeah. Well, and this is the piece that's not sexy at all. And it's literally, I think it's the whole first week of the course, because everybody
Yeah.
tells you this, right? They tell you, you got to know, you got to know your prospect better than the prospect knows themselves. And that's great. It's also not always that realistic, because when it comes to like selling water pitchers for me, I've realized too more as I've gotten older is that a lot of it was like wanting to know that I could, because you're taking this market of people that could be 65, divorced and obese, or 32 and an entrepreneur and this and that. Like you're selling a product to people who drink water. That is your market. And so it's very broad, and you have to learn the commonalities of the product and the problems and stuff like that. The more narrow your niche, the more you can speak directly to those people, and the easier it is. That's why people are like, oh, I'm in a small niche, it's hard. No, the smaller your niche, the more hyper targeted they are, the easier it is to write copy, because you know more about them. That's why I'm excited about the idea of writing these choose your own adventure style VSLs, because you can basically find out who people are by having them click on shit. But as far as research goes, people tell you that, and then they don't give you a way to actually do it. Like, how do you actually go and research? There are a lot of ways, and I still find that the single best way to do it is to get on the phone. I have never found a better way, and it's something that some people are uncomfortable with. I love it. I basically send out these, like for my own products, I'll send out emails and I say, hit reply and let me know if you want to talk. And then I'll sell them on the phone too. I get paid to basically get data. But I will call people that are target demographics. I'll ask the company if they have stuff. Now I typically write in markets that I already know what I'm doing, and I have templates for what I'm doing. And so I don't need to do that stuff. But like, I remember I was writing something for a skincare product, and, it's for older women. So I called my mom, and she told me a line. I was like, why do you use skincare products? Like, what is it that, what's making you do it? And she's like, I just want to look in the mirror and feel pretty again. And so there's literally the first line of my sales letter was her sentence. So if you do the right research, it will be basically written for you. And I mean, sometimes directly. I haven't looked at this round of, I know, Derek, I think you've looked at some of the survey results, but when we've done surveys for like, oh, what do you want to know about VSLs and this stuff? We literally just take the stuff people tell us and then rewrite it back to them. And they're like, man, I feel like you were speaking directly to me. And I'm like, that's because you wrote that. That was your question. And so it works very well to just talk on the phone. There's nothing quite like that. Or just send emails that ask people to reply, and you just take their little sentences and you can basically put their sentences in to your sales letters. But that front end piece of doing some of that work is really powerful. And I just still don't think there's anything better than a phone call. And Amazon reviews can be great. You can find a ton in Amazon reviews. But yeah, that's my go-to strategy.
Yeah.
Is phone calls.
What about reading?
So you broke up there. You said
on news, or do you find that?
You said reading what?
What about reading? Like, what kind of, are you doing any sort of research as it comes to like reading newspapers or any sort of trade magazines, that kind of thing? Or is it, I mean, I know you work in a lot of different spaces, but.
Well, these days I don't do that much different stuff. Basically, I'll pretty much, I do survival and health, and then my own stuff, which is internet marketing and self-development, basically. But I actually find that one of the worst things you can do is just look at shit in your own space. A lot of people do that, and then they end up copying other people's stuff. I think one of the most effective things you can do, there was a great story. This guy I know, they were in the golf space, and they were selling this product on how to drive the ball further. They tried a VSL and it didn't really work. And then they ended up going to and watching the Beverly Hills MD VSL, which fucking crushed it. And they broke down the structure of it. And they took the structure from that and then just did it for golf. And the cool thing is you're not stealing, you're not doing what other, like there's so many people in the health space will just go and basically steal someone else's VSL. We literally had a company steal our 4 Foot Farm VSL word for word. And we knew them, and we were like, "Yo, dude, what are you doing?" He's like, "I just wanted to test it to see if it would, get some results." Like, that's not how you do things. Ironically, I'm writing for him story. Now. It's now, but yeah, it was like ridiculous. But so I think it's good to go and get a feel for things in your own space, but to really learn on a deep level, you want to go in and break down structures, which is cool. And that's sort of, it's what I've already done and Derek's already done. So you can go do it yourself, or you can, just have it all done for you and laid out in a beautiful 6-week course with emails delivered to you on a daily basis that give you the exact structures and breakdowns of sales letters that have sold hundreds of millions of dollars. Or do all the guesswork yourself and, give it a shot on your own, and best of luck to you.
Nice little options section.
Yeah, that is a great lesson really quick, is most people don't give people the options of what they're supposed to do at the end of a sales letter, a sales presentation, or on a checkout page. There's typically 3 options. One option is to, scour the internet and go find all the free YouTube videos and go find all the other VSL experts who are, charging $2,000 a VSL, yet they're, teaching people how to do this shit, and they haven't actually ever gotten a result from a client, because no clients give them any feedback because they get paid whether they succeed or not. Unlike me, who gets paid, well, I get paid in the beginning, but I get paid when I win. You can go and scour all the free content, or you can get this nice condensed guide of everything done for you, and I've done all the hard work. And then my favorite option is one that most people don't use, which is, or you can do nothing at all and keep on your life in the exact same fashion that it's going. And in 1 year from now, you can wake up and nothing's changed, and your life is exactly the same as it is. And maybe that's fine. And maybe things are just good enough. But maybe they're not.
Love it.
So,
yeah, perfect. Let's talk about some of the different sections of a VSL. Now, you mentioned that you're rewriting a lead. So just people that are familiar with both of us know what a lead is at this point, but maybe just describe it. It's a quick reminder.
So it popped my shoulder. So the lead would be the first, it could be the first, couple sentences, would typically be the first 200 to 600 words of a sales letter or a video sales letter. And the first, 30 seconds to 3 minutes, typically. That's going to have the biggest impact on everything you do. And within that, the most important thing you'll ever write in a sales letter or in a VSL is going to be the first sentence. That's the first sentence is the single most important thing you'll ever write. That's the only thing I actually edit these days and spend time thinking about. It's incredibly impactful. But the lead it's like, the way you introduce yourself to anyone is going to change everything you say and feel and how you think about that person after that initial interaction. So if I've never met Derek and I go up to him and I say, "Hey, Derek, my name's Ian. I'm really good friends with Clay, and he said that we should meet." He's probably going to be like, "Oh, yeah, this is a person that I am going to maybe trust and talk to for a few minutes." But if I'm like, "Hey, Derek, I'm a huge Justin Bieber fan, and I also love racism," you'd probably be like, "Oh, okay, everything you say from here on out is not going to be that great." So it shapes everything that happens after it and allows you to say different things. It's the same in stand-up comedy. I do stand-up comedy as well, and there's a lot of parallels because you're entering the conversation going on in their head. And that's really what you want to do with your lead, is do your best to enter the conversation going on in their head, which you don't always know what it is, depending on how aware they are and things like that, which we also go into detail on breaking down the levels of awareness they're at and what type of lead to write based on how aware they are. So the lead is the most impactful thing. I remember I read the book Great Leads when I was I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And I was really angry when I read it because nobody had told me that that was so important at that point. And I just thought the whole sales letter was equally important. And it's not. If you've got a working sales letter, rewriting the middle of it's probably not going to make a huge difference. Um, so yeah, and Great Leads is a good book. I would recommend reading it. Either
Definitely.
way.
So you said nowadays you're working mainly on like story leads. Do you have any recommendations or any like story structure that you're using? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
to a degree. So Paris Lampropoulos, who's like a legendary copywriter dude, who also he joined the unit, which was pretty cool for me. That Paris is in the unit now, which is my paid membership group. But he said, if I have a story, I will always use it. So if there's a story there, he will always start with that as a lead. And I've come to the same conclusion pretty much with what I'm doing. If not like with the double your conversions challenge I just did, my lead was basically what would it be worth to double your conversions, or those of your client, or the conversions of your client. And because that's such a clear benefit if they understand it. So I ask that and then I say, okay, now let me tell you a story. But the stories, I just, the Bible, and so this will be controversial, this is said. You know, Buddhism and Christianity aren't that different as far as what they teach. Buddhism is just more of a how-to book. It's the nonfiction version. And just like on Amazon, nonfiction doesn't sell as well as stories. The Bible had great marketers. They were great storytellers. And you remember everything much better. You guys, I'm sure have heard this, but, we evolved telling stories, and that's how everything got passed down for years and years and years. And it's still how we're hardwired to listen and pay attention to things and consume things. So stories still play the biggest role. And the more, I have Gary's on here. He's in the unit. He knows how much I just pound on stories. It's like, it's almost annoying at this point. People used to say like, stories, it's all about stories. And I'd be like, yeah, but also not always. Now it's like if you have a good one, it will beat everything else in my opinion. And so like we've done emotional story structuring. So I have like a first sentence that I love. There was a VSL I beat the control that was the first sentence was John didn't know he was going to die that night, which I've been saying. I just really enjoy that one. Not that John died, but because it worked. At least he didn't die in vain. At least I made some money off his death. No, and actually, and the product they were selling was very useful to people, and if it helps, it could save their lives. So,
but you had there was a story that you had in, I want to say, the paleo market or the fat loss market. Do you have any of that stuff pulled up? We could just show.
Which story? Do you remember which story?
I don't. I'm drawing a blank, but I know that you had said you had rewritten. All you did was add a story to the beginning of somebody's VSL, and I think it was Paleo Hacks. I don't know if that helps you, but
yeah, I just wrote this, but I wrote a story of the girl's story, but that one was more my price anchoring script for the intro. Let me try and think. I'm not sharing my screen now anyway, so I can pull some stuff up. Why don't you real quick, Derek, because not everybody here knows actually who you are. Why don't you real quick give a little background? I think your copy hour sales letter is still one of my favorite sales letters.
Thank you. Yeah.
I wanted to do that with the W conversions one. You have all the arrows pointing at things and stuff like that. Like I wanted to write a sales letter that's basically calling out all of the parts of the sales letter. But yeah, if you want to just real quick and then that, and I'll see if I can pull up some
stuff. So I created Copy Hour about 8 years ago at this point. I am more typically.
And what is Copy Hour?
Copy Hour is a 90-day course that takes you through writing a sales letter or sales message from start to finish. And it heavily relies on the handwriting method. So handwriting to help kind of program the language of sales copy into your brain. That's kind of how I look at it. I've kind of transitioned from just like heavy focus on handwriting to handwriting plus structure that I provide within that course. So I think handwriting is a big part. I think some people get caught up on handwriting because it's the only thing that they do and they never do anything else besides handwriting, but it has been shown to help with memory and recall. So I think it's a valuable strategy, tactic, whatever you want to call it, for writing copy. But yeah, so I'm more typically a consultant. I did a lot of consulting work before I created Copy Hour, and I noticed that the number one skill that I wanted to have was copywriting. So that's why I ended up creating the course in the first place. And then guys like Ian Stanley, Dan Meredith, Dan Ferrari, some other big names have gone through
people
Copy
named
Hour.
Dan, or people whose first name ends in AM.
Exactly. And then I also run a organic skincare subscription box with my wife called Art of Organics. So those are kind of the two things that I'm involved with right now. But yeah.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. So there's the answer, because David Ryan was, sorry to ask it this way. I know what Ian does, but I'm in the dark as to what Derek does.
You don't need to apologize. All right. Yeah. All right.
So I pulled up some stories.
Okay.
If you would like for me to,
if you'd like Ian to share his stories, type a Y into the chat box. Let's get some
interaction.
Let's get some interaction.
Boom. Okay. Smashing that Y button.
Who's going to do an N?
Nope, not interested.
All right, let's do it.
Cool. All right. So, and let me know if you can't see it properly because it's too small. That's what she said. I'm grown up. I actually have made it. I haven't said that's what she said in so long. God, that's how you know I'm turning into a real adult. And I didn't even really laugh at my own joke there. Okay, let's start with this one. So you can see how systematic I am. This one was, all right, I'll start with this one. This is just something I wrote, so Joe didn't know his marriage was going to end that night. As you can tell, that comes from the John didn't know he was going to die. He woke up and went about his day just like he always did. He struggled his way out of bed, feeling the aches and pains in his joints that never used to bother him in his youth. He walked down to the kitchen to make a coffee and have what he thought was a healthy breakfast: cereal, orange juice, and some whole wheat toast. And then, Derek, can you look at the chat in case some stuff comes up? I get very distracted by the blinking chat light.
Will do.
All right, he read the morning paper and kissed his wife on the cheek and then headed to work. He came home that night and sat down at the dinner table across from his wife of 33 years. He took his first bite of food, and the first sentence out of her mouth was, "I want a divorce." He almost choked on his food. He thought it was a joke, but her face was dead serious. She meant what she said. All he could think was, where's this coming from? What did I do wrong? He worked hard, paid the bills on time, bought nice things for his wife on her birthday and their anniversary. He even did his best to keep things tidy around the house. But after 33 years, all she had to say was, "I'm not happy anymore and I don't want to be married to you. I love you, but I'm not in love with you." And keep going, I guess. It was like daggers stabbed straight through his heart. His gut turned into knots. His knees buckled. He felt like his whole world was collapsing. It wasn't until a few weeks later when Joe was talking to one of his buddies that he found out the truth. "My wife talked to your wife and she told me why your wife wants a divorce. You sure you want to hear it? It ain't going to be easy." "Sure, I can take it." His friend said, "She told me she wanted to be married to a man. When she married you, you weren't just a man, you were the man. But as you got older, things changed. You have man boobs and a gut now. You never seem to have much energy. And the part that killed her the most is you basically stopped having sex. That's what put her over the edge." Hearing that news crippled Joe. Here's the sad part. Joe's story isn't unusual these days. In fact, it's pretty standard. More and more men are losing their marriages, sex lives, and drive than ever before. But it never used to be like this. Men were men, women were women. But now genders are somehow being blurred. Even men who used to be the pinnacle of manliness are developing mental, emotional, and physical female attributes. You may have been wondering what the hell is going on in your body and mind. Noticing your body, and then goes into the more traditional testosterone type of stuff.
Got it. So how do you, first of all, where do you get these ideas? How do
So
you come up
this
with
one
stories?
is
How do
the
you
only
structure stuff?
one that I just like basically have ever just made up, but it's not an untrue story. This is a very common thread. It's just giving a name and a face to that. Um, so this one is just like basically hitting on the point that people, that men are basically having huge issues that have to do with the fact that their testosterone is low. Um, so, but the structure is borrowed from Joe. John didn't know he was going to die that night, right? So I start with a sentence, and then I just start writing. Basically, I let that sentence. So Lee Childs, who writes the Reacher books, when he writes his books, he doesn't know what's going to happen, which lends to a lot of the suspense. There's no outline. There's no all the shit. He just writes, and you want to just keep that curiosity at an absolute high. How high can you drive that curiosity? Um, and that's really what's going on. So, sorry, I was looking at the chat. Yeah, I mean, I really just try and keep it. How much emotion can I create, and how much curiosity? Those are the two things that I'm looking to do: make them feel something and make them feel like they need to keep going. It's pretty hard to, you don't not want to read that sentence. So this one I wasn't able to run because of something in this, so I can share this. Normally I couldn't share the work I do with this client, but this one this is pretty damn good. It's pretty fucked up, but it's good. Um, Judith didn't know she was going to die that night. She went to sleep just like she did every other night, but she never woke up. Her death certificate listed the air in her own home as the cause of death. Her son, Andrew, a mechanical engineer, suspected an environmental exposure in his mother's home. As a shot in the dark, he tested her home for radon, a radioactive gas you can't see or smell. I got a 234 at the sump pump and about fell over. Andrew said about the alarming number. Never once did I think or realize that my own mother's home was a death trap, he said. The EPA recognizes radon as the second leading cause of lung cancer after smoking, claiming the lives of around 21,000 people in the US each year. It says lung cancer has a proven tie to indoor radon exposure. Here's the thing. Radon isn't the only nasty thing in the air. There's a string of invisible contaminants that are likely in your home right now, slowly stealing your health with every breath you take. Unfortunately, Judith isn't the only person who suffered a premature death from air pollution. In fact, it's one of the most extensive reports of its kind. Environmental health experts have estimated that 9 million premature deaths worldwide, which is 16% of all deaths, were linked to pollution in 2015, with the majority of deaths coming from air pollution. According to Time magazine, air pollution is killing people in the United States. More than 155,000 US deaths in 2015 were related to pollution, the researchers found. We think air quality in the United States is good enough to protect our citizens, Joel Schwartz, a professor at the Harvard School of Public Health who authored the study, said in a statement. In fact, we need to lower pollution levels even further, which is why this short video might be one of the most important things you ever watch. And then it would go into the demonstration.
Got it. Okay, so
there is a structure here, which is basically curiosity, problem of like what this issue is, and then it's layering basically scientific proof of the problem, and making it relate to them, right? So one woman dies, that doesn't mean they're going to have the same issues, but then when you start to get into all this, it becomes clear that it affects everyone and not just the woman who died.
yeah, so there's a question from Leanne here that said, what do you do?
The sources. So you put the sources below the video.
Yeah.
You just put the sources below the video. You do want them on there.
Okay, so a lot of your leads these days are starting with stories.
Yeah, so I have two more. I was just going to share the beginning of just the first sentences.
Okay.
A story I never thought I'd share. When I was 15 years old, 5 men stole my freedom. When I was 26, one man gave it back to me. And then so you can see that I'm very templatized. Like, this is a story my ego doesn't want to share. It's a story your ego doesn't want to read. It involves massive change. I actually kind of want to change that now. But this is the Poseidon story. It's probably the best story I've written. And it starts out just time for a story you probably won't read. It's too long, too personal, too sad, too happy. It involves a boy, a wolf, a man who cried. I don't expect many people to read this. I wrote it more for myself than anything else, but it feels important to share for some reason. And so that's basically like, I mean, you could take that for anything. It's just this challenge. Time for a story you probably won't read. Yeah.
Yeah. And then embedded in each of these, obviously, is a promise of some sort, but kind of indirectly, right? Like, you say this could be the most important thing you'll ever read. Um, how do you approach throwing in a promise to the reader when you have a story?
What do you mean?
As far as there needs to be a reason why somebody's reading this story, right? So
Yeah.
do you directly state in a lot of these, like, here's what you're going to get out of this video?
No.
No.
It depends on what I'm doing. Yeah, it depends. I like to try and rely on the story being good enough to pull them through,
Okay.
and then you make the promise. And
Okay.
here's what this has to do with your health. And here's why you need to watch this video, because this could be effective. Every breath you take right now could be slowly killing you,
And then
which is
that's
why
how
you
you
need to watch this
transition,
video.
right?
Yeah. And that transition is important. That's where a lot of people fuck things up is um, they mess up the part that goes from the correlation or the story to the actual call to action or why they should keep going or whatever it is. And typically it's like 1 to 3 sentences of a link that you need, something to just link the story to what it is that you're talking about.
Got it. All right. Chris B has a question. How do people get to the videos? As in, is this cold traffic? What would an ad look like? Just wondering what the context is for someone arriving at these videos.
These videos are very cold traffic. So either a Facebook ad or um, an email. So they buy
Like
emails to an
Yeah.
email drop to like Newsmax or something. So there is some context. But that's a great thing about a story is it can work on any level of awareness. Actually, I didn't even think about that, but that's probably one of the big advantages is that story could work on a cold audience or a completely warm audience, whereas an alpha lead may only work on a warm audience or, there are different things that different situations for different lead types, but I think stories are pretty universal.
Got it. Do you have an example? I mean, are you writing the ads that go to, like, are you writing the email drops?
I did for some of these, but not really, not in general.
No, you're just
And I'm not
rewriting.
writing the Facebook ads because, like, so with the new client I have, like, they test so much, they run like 20 to 50 grand a day in Facebook traffic. So they've got the ads pretty dialed in because the ads you can dial in based on testing, right? Like you just test enough and you're going to find the ones that are working.
Mm-hmm.
So I just look at a couple of the ads that are working and then, based off
Go
that.
from there. Got it. Okay,
That's why I love upsells. Like if you want to rewrite people's upsells and shit or work on your own, like what's so great about those is that you already know exactly where the prospect is. Because that's the question. So if you guys downloaded the copy checklist, which is actually right here, like, but the first question is, where are they now? Like, if they're in an upsell flow, you know where they are. They just bought this product about this. You can now speak directly to where they're at. That's why it's so much easier to write upsells. Yeah.
Got it. All right. So quick question before we move on here from Leanne. Wondering if you've tested female versus male voice on a VSL in any niche.
Yeah, we've tested all sorts of shit and you never know what's going to work, but testing voices is one of the most important things you could test. Female, male, sometimes sometimes the guy who's like the movie announcer, I remember we paid a guy a bunch of money and I don't think his won. It was like, time for a story you probably won't read. Like it, and then there's a time for a story you probably won't read. It's too long. Like sometimes you don't know what's going to work. It depends on your market. It's something you genuinely have to test. There's no standard protocol. But once you find a good voice, yeah, you want to sort of keep that one. But typically, yeah, you really don't know.
Got it. So I know that you were saying that you're restructuring leads most of the time, or just adding a story to a VSL. Are you ever rewriting the sales argument portion of these things? Are you ever rewriting kind of the middle portion of letters?
Not often. With this air purifier, I sort of redid the whole thing. I probably put 20 hours into that one. Not this lead. I wrote the actual, I wrote demos. I rewrote the whole thing, like a lot of it, because it was turning it from, it was actually, so this is what I got paid to do. I got paid to take the sales page and turn it into a VSL because it just didn't work as it was. And that went from not working on being an affiliate product to basically to really working on cold traffic. At least I think it is. And yeah, I basically turned it into a VSL, and that one was more work, but it depends on what I'm doing. And then also, I can get paid quite well on those. So it's still worth it depending on what I'm doing. But these days for me, it takes a lot for me to want to write for someone else, because if I write something, if I go and rewrite a full sales letter or something for someone, yeah, I could make 50 grand or more in cash. But if I write one for myself, I can make an extra 20 to 30 grand a month. Right. So, and it's an asset that I own, and it's for my own products and stuff like that. So for me now, it's more like it's fun cash, and it's, if it's something that seems to make sense, I'll do it, but it's not how I make.
Yeah.
It's just not, I have a mission with the two businesses I have. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. So I don't want to take away from that too much. So now it really is, what are projects that don't require much work at all?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my goal is to win, I want to win.
Yeah. And I think part of that mentality is why it does seem easy for you, right? Because you're just focused on the win. You're not focused on writing a giant promotion most of the time. It's just, how can I tweak something that's already exists out there? So let's transition, Ian, into the contract stuff, because I think that's why a lot of people are super interested in it. I mean, obviously we've got the VSL course that's going to help you structure this stuff. So, we could talk forever about the structure of it, but you could also just join the course, and then we could give you that structure and talk about it there. So let's talk about how you're structuring your contracts. That's probably what people are interested in here.
Yeah, let me see if it happens to be open. Somewhere here. Yeah, so this is my traditional structure. So this was for two VSLs, so 15,000 up front for each, 5,000 additional if I do 3 scripts, 5 to 15% better than control and conversion or revenue per visitor, $15,000 bonus, 16 to 25% better than the control and conversion, $30,000 bonus, 26 to 35% better, $45,000 bonus, and 36% better, $60,000 bonus. So that's for VSLs. And then this was for emails, which is $1,500 per email. And then if it beats a control, I get 5,000 bonus. So this is the traditional structure. So you could literally replace this with $3,000 up front and, take the percentages and change them. The idea is, and this is what I say to clients, is that it has to work for them. The point is to win, for everyone to win, not just for me to win or just for them to win. So the numbers have to make sense. So I've also I get 1,000 per percentage increase. I have a friend who did one with a client that did 3,000 per percentage increase, and he made 177,000 from a couple hours of work on the checkout pages. So yeah, I mean, this is the basic structure, and you could also charge less up front. and rely heavily on the back end. The thing is, I've found that any client I've charged less, I had one client I charged less up front, and they didn't test shit, and I fucking hate it. And I only make good money if I test it, and it wins. So if they're not testing stuff, I don't want to work with them. So I have one client who I worked with who I didn't charge them anything up front, and they test stuff, and I've made tens of thousands from them, because I know them and I trust them. So depending on the people, like if I was starting out, I would at least put down a deposit for something, like, pay me $1,000 that pulls from my wins, right? So if you got 5,000, if it beats it by 20%, and you got 10,000 if it beats it by 30%, and 15,000 if it beats it by 40%. But they have to put down 1,000 or 2,000, but that's a draw against your future winnings, because it keeps them invested in you. For people that just do shit for free, it just tends to not work. Like at this point, I have some friends who run, $10 to $30 million businesses. So it's like, yeah, I'll sit down for an hour or 30 minutes and write a new lead and go test it. And maybe I'll make 30 grand or 40, sure. But I know they're going to test it. Outside of that, you got to have people put some skin in the game.
Awesome. So are there any questions that anybody has specifically for Ian, related to either the contract or anything VSL related, that you want to talk about? We can get to a couple questions from you guys here. How do you work with clients to get accurate conversion data?
Whatever their split test. Oh, so yeah, this is a great thing is, I require them to send me a screenshot of the split test win, because they could technically just say whatever. So, and they could technically Photoshop it, but I only do business with people I trust, but I do now have that in the contract, because it cost me probably 30 grand. It was about 30 grand once, and they didn't do that. But I we talk about it up front, how they're going to do the testing, and because everybody's different, they have different ways of doing it. Some people, it's really clear. They have good split testing data and software, and they just know. For certain people, they want to get a baseline revenue per visitor and shit like that. So.
Got it. All right. Any other? I lost my chat, Ian. I don't know where it went.
Yeah, let me see.
There we go.
Mine seemingly has disappeared as well.
Any tips for the best to do these tests on?
You broke up anytime. Any what?
Any tips for the best clients that you can do these kinds of tests with? Where do you find those type of people?
Yeah, so any ads you click on, people are spending money on those. You could reach out to them and offer to test parts of their funnel for free, and they only pay if it wins. But yeah, I still always say to people, the best place to go is to meet people in person, or to go to events and shit like that, like whether it's local or whatever it is. Like, people always want more copy, and if you're starting out, you may have to write more in the beginning. You may not have the same track record to just go in and rewrite little pieces, but you can. If you win, you win, right? Like, they don't give a shit how experienced you are if you win. So you just got to find a way to make it beneficial for both of you. As far as finding them goes, it's sort of the age-old question. There's no one way to find clients. There's so many ways. You could go to ClickBank and look at the top categories for VSLs, or look at VSLs that aren't working that well, ones that are on the second or third page in their category. Go to look at their affiliate program, reach out to the product owner, and make them an offer to rewrite their VSL lead for free if they give you this percentage. If you make this amount increase, I see that you're on, your gravity on ClickBank is 4, so you're selling 4 products a week. Like, what would it be worth for you to sell 20 a day or 50 a day or whatever it is? But yeah, there are so many different ways. This is still the thing that's the question people always love to ask, but it's, once you get 1 or 2 clients, they're going to refer you to other people. And And it's really understanding the principle of this is how do I find a way for people to win that's lower risk on their end.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Okay. Tips for writing webinars. How do they compare to VSLs? I think they're very similar. The only thing that you might want to do differently in kind of the middle portion of a webinar versus a VSL is content right in the middle of it. Whereas with the VSL, you're more just, it looks like stable. Can you guys hear me still?
You're breaking up a little bit. Okay.
All right, Ian, do you want to handle it? My internet.
Yeah, I think it's more like, so with webinars, you want to teach more. So like we've given you a lot of legitimate, I mean, this has been all teaching. This isn't really a webinar. This is an actual workshop. But with a webinar, yeah, I think you want to just give more content in the middle than you would in a VSL. But and also webinars typically give you an hour or more in a VSL. Might be 20 minutes and it might be an hour, but they're not that different. You could use all the things that you learn in the VSL course to write webinars, no problem.
All right, Ian, let's transition into talking about the VSL course a little bit, because I think it's a good transition from the kinds of money, the demonstration and the contract that you have there of what you're able to demand as a copywriter. That is something that I'm sure many of us would like to, that's a level that we'd like to be able to get to. So how does the VSL course help people get to that level, I guess?
Well, literally having this one understanding of how I structure the contracts separates you from almost every other copywriter. Like, I'm not saying that to exaggerate or, blow rainbows up my own bum. It's just a reality, as most copywriters are in the business of, they're not good at business and they're not good at structuring contracts. They maybe can write copy. This alone separates everything, but now you have to have the skill, right? You have to actually know how to win. And that's where the course comes in. It's literally 6 weeks of, basically a PhD in VSLs. It's super in depth. We really put a lot of work into that course. And like I said, if I were to do it now, it wouldn't be as good. The course we did there is very detailed. And literally from start to finish, you will write your own VSL, and you could sell that for an amount, for whatever amount of money. And you could write it for your own business, for whatever it is that you want to do. And then also after the first one that you write in 6 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks, VSL should never take more than 2 weeks, in my opinion. I know there are people, I don't write in the financial space for a reason, because it takes too long and it's too much detail. But my sales letters nowadays, it's typically 2 to 3 days max, sometimes 1 day. And they, once you really ingrain it, it's so easy and so fast. But yeah, I think it comes down to getting that really solid foundational understanding once, and then having a structure to go through and write them block by block. Basically, it's like the way I think of a sales letter is like a hamburger. You've got the first bun, which is your lead. Then you've got, your lettuce and your tomato and all the shit that I fucking hate along with the bun. And then you've got the actual meat, which is the sort of the core of the sales letter itself, of the VSL. And then you've got the close, which is the second bun. And so, but you need to know exactly what order. If you get the order wrong, just you're not going to put the bun and then the meat and then the tomato and lettuce and shit underneath the bun or underneath the meat patty, because you're not a murderer. And that seems like something I don't know, a serial killer would do. If you get the order wrong, sequencing is potentially probably the most important thing for any sales letter. Maybe that's what you're talking about, Derek, is what I'll do is I will basically go in and look at a VSL or a sales letter and I'll realize that they put the best shit too far down. And I'll take that and put it at the beginning. I rewrote the fat burning kitchen one. That's actually what I realized you were talking about. So let me,
That might have been it.
yeah. I think it is. It wasn't this. It was definitely this letter, but this might not be the one that I wrote. What did I write? Basically, I realized that they had this. It was too low down. They had this thing like your personal fat threshold. Oh, that's because it's Scribner. Your personal. I don't even know if I have this open. It's so chaos on my computer.
I don't know how you do this.
I know people ask, and it's the chaos is how I do things.
FYI, I structured the course for
Here we go.
the VSL course. So
yeah, so it's a lot more organized. Have you ever heard of your personal fat? This is what it was: how to use your personal fat threshold. So I just took this story that was like, a quarter of the way down the page, and I just brought it to the top and made 15 grand. I just saw what I thought was interesting. Like, what was the part that stood out to me, and it wasn't early enough in the sales letter. I brought it up and it won. So that's what you'll get in the course, is literally the exact sequence and structure, so that you can, anytime you ever write a sales letter, you can go and look at that and just have the thing laid out for you, so you don't have to guess. And also, Chris B was saying that, sounded like I said crispy. Chris B as in boy. He, well, actually, I don't know if Chris is a boy, and also it's 2018, so, who knows? Chris, the human Chris, with the last name that starts with the letter B, said, I just sit there looking at the blank page. Well, it would be very difficult to look at a blank page and struggle with the VSL course, because it's laid out in such a easy to follow format, and there are like literal templates and formulas to do stuff that you just need to fill it in. Basically, it's not like full on templates, like, fill in the blank, but it's not that far off, where you just fill in the sections. Basically, like, here's this section, and so instead of this big intimidating beast, right, like, I got to write a 20-minute VSL. No, you don't. You just have to write the first minute, and then you have to write the second minute, and then you write the third minute, and you just write 1 minute at a time, just like you only can ever write one word at a time. When you break it up into its component pieces, it gets a lot easier.
Denise was asking, do you teach how to get rewriting work in the course? So, like, do you teach your strategy here? And I think that was going to be we have a bonus video on it. Correct, Ian?
Do we already have that one?
I believe we do.
I think so. But I was thinking maybe what I would do is give you guys like an idea of what I would do if I was starting out, or like how to get I gave you guys a lot here on like literally what I say. I'm not like, there's no other real secrets. It's like, hey, do you want me to win, or do you want a lot of work? But yeah, you got to find the people, and we could go into that, I suppose, in a bonus. I think we've definitely talked about some getting clients and stuff, but we could.
How long is your average VSL?
Man, there's 20 to 30 minutes is what I would say for me, but that's not necessarily. Almost some people write hour-long VSLs. Sometimes it's 5 or 10 minutes. I'd say for me, if I'm going to do it for my own business nowadays, it'll probably be more like a 10 to 15 to 20-minute VSL.
Yeah.
I actually am going to do it. I got challenged by a guy who I hired to do basically do a show where I like sell a course, but over 30 minutes, I do like 5 characters and intro different pieces of it and make it super entertaining. But outside of that, I'd say 20 to 30 is my norm.
Got it. I'm hoping that I'm not going to break up, but I just wanted to break down the course a little bit more for people and tell them what they're going to get in each week. So it is 6 weeks long, and each email is going to follow what Ian and I call PNS, which is the principle-based neuroembedding structures. Ian came up with this and the acronym. So PNS, the penis system,
Yep,
is
it's old Ian. Still true, and it still works.
That's old Ian.
Still works.
Yeah. So the first part about it is, I mean, it's teaching, right? Like we're going to send you, it's all delivered via email. We're going to give you the principles and strategies that go into each section of a sales message. So there's a particular structure that Ian's been hinting at and talking about that we walk you through. We walk you through that entire structure and include the principles and strategies of each section of the sales of a VSL. Then we give you an example that we say you can hand copy. You don't have to hand copy if you don't want. It's not a requirement of the course. I think it's valuable. Ian thinks it's valuable. So there's that portion, an example of the principle, or there's an example of the section that we're talking about. And then we also give you a structure that you can follow. Structure, kind of a formula. I don't fully think formulas are the most helpful thing for any writer, but it is helpful sometimes to have those to at least look at and to get you started. So there's
the structures are very valuable.
Yeah. So we've got the structures, the examples, and then the principles, and then it's all delivered via email for 6 weeks. The first week is mainly just research, as Ian hinted at. That's one of the most important parts, if not the most important part. So week number one,
and we are literally, we're talking about 5 days of like really deep into how to research stuff.
The hard part is, though, with research is that it's going to sound like stuff you've heard before, right? Maybe there's going to be some new strategies, new tactics. I hope there is. I'm pretty sure there are. But at the same time, it's kind of stuff that you just have to do. And if you do it, you're going to stand out and you're going to be better off than the people around you, because most people don't actually do it. They know that they should be going into forums. Maybe they know that they should be talking to people, but they don't do it. They don't do it. So that's an opportunity.
And you get tasks every day too. Just so you know, you get like actual structured tasks. Like this is like if somebody who understood learning taught a course, that's what we did, because we understand learning. Most people have no fucking idea how humans learn. So they just put together a product and they're like, hey, good luck. Whereas this is based on how humans learn, which is why you'll actually retain information.
I call it dispersed learning. When you go to college, they don't just hand you the textbook, or a good teacher doesn't just hand you the textbook and say, here, we're going to have a test now. Here, you study this. It's broken out over time. You go to class each week. Same thing with emails. I think email is the best way to deliver a course.
Absolutely.
And why people don't deliver courses via email in every single industry. It's always just like, boom, and watch all these videos.
It's incredible. I'm doing my W conversions course right now, and I get 70% opens on every email. And that means 70% of people at least are going to consume my entire course. That is the average is like 3%. And the thing is those people are now incredibly valuable because they're used to opening my emails. So that I agree. I don't know why people do it. They don't do it because it takes work and they don't know about it.
All right. So week 1, research. Week 2, we talk about bullets, which is feature and benefit talk. And then creation stories, which is a nice kind of transition that you can put into the sales argument portion. So again, we have this structure of the VSL that we're going to show you each element, each portion of it.
In the order it's supposed to go.
In the order it's supposed to go. And so we've got bullets and creation stories in week 2. Week 3 is USP, so unique selling proposition, unique mechanism, and then also the offer and the close of your sales message. Weeks 4 and 5 are going to be talking about the thing we call options. We're going to talk about leads, and then we're going to talk about interest peaking mechanisms. And you guys are going to get more emails on this, like breaking down, so you can see this visually for yourself. And we have a sales page that will kind of break this down visually, but I'm just talking to you guys right now. So then we've got weeks 5 and 6. We're going to talk about headlines, sales arguments, and then some technical stuff, just kind of putting it all together. If you need to take the script that you've written and turn it into an actual VSL. So that's the whole basic course. Ian, do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, I was just going to say, we're going to give you guys a bonus when you sign up today, but we can talk about that in a second. I know Mike asked, what if we've already been through copy hour?
This is
congratulations.
Slightly different from copy hour. This is a shorter course, a little bit more heavy hitting. There's some nuance and some differences between VSLs and what we talk about in copy hour. They're
I would also say that, I've been through copy, that's how I got my start, was through copy hour. And there's a lot more teaching and more specific formula structure type stuff, I'd say, from what I remember, at least. Like it's literally formula. A to Z how to write one and then how to continue to write them, as opposed to just developing a general skill. It's like, it's specific, and it's also very deep on the principles. So the PNS thing is principle based. So you learn the actual principles of what it is that you are, of what you're learning. So not just the tactics or the ideas, but the principles, the deepest level of it. Then you learn the neuro embedding is basically using hand copying to literally implant it into your subconscious, sort of like in The Matrix. If you've seen The Matrix, I hope you have, when Neo gets, they put the thing in the back of the skull, and then he's like, oh, I know Kung Fu. Basically, it's kind of like that, like where you can put it in at the deep level, and then the structures are a way for you to actually implement what it is that we teach you. So that is the structure.
Awesome. Okay, so that's the core course. We also have an advanced option if you want to go deeper, where we have 6 live training webinars, or I guess they're recorded training webinars that we send out on a weekly basis that kind of cover each topic in more depth, as well as 2 live group training sessions where Ian and I will actually sit down and look at your copy and talk to whoever joins the advanced version in a group setting, but pretty intimate, I guess. 2 live sessions like that, and then we have some training on upsells and the back end funnel. So some of the stuff that Ian was talking about, rewriting upsells,
which is how you can really get paid well to go into companies and do this for existing funnels.
Yeah.
And then I think
everybody that joins whichever version is going to get the bonus that we're going to talk about here.
Yeah. And so real quick, I think it's something like 70 or 80% of people take the advanced. Is that right? I don't know if you remember what it was. Yeah. It's pretty ridiculous.
How our pricing is.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend the advanced, not just because it makes us more money, but it's generally like it's what people do, and it's a reason for it. And then as far as the bonus, I think what we're going to do is do a live submission in around 2 to 3 weeks. You guys can first off, what this will do is it keeps you accountable, right? So you go, shit, I really want to get some stuff written before then so that I can have them look at it. But we're going to literally look at it and like help you rewrite it on the call. So, sorry, that's only for the people who buy today, just as an incentive for people who take action fast and make shit happen, basically. Yeah. So,
and I dumped a link in there as well, which should take you to a page where you can see the 2 options side by side. And then the other bonus what was the other bonus, Ian? Or did you just go into that?
Did we have, so I think we were going to, how to
The negotiation, right?
The upsell stuff, or like how to negotiate. Yeah.
Yeah. Negotiation. So it's the basically going a little bit more in depth about what Ian talked about in this actual call here, and talking about how he negotiates these contracts. So just going into more depth on the way that Ian structures contracts will be a bonus for people that join advanced and if you join today. So there's that.
And if, that alone is really like, that's worth what you're getting. Because if you like, it's like being a dentist, right? There are plenty of great dentists who have no idea how to run a business. You can become a great writer, and if you don't know how to structure the contracts properly, you're not ever going to make that much money. And, that's not the only goal of writing copy, and it's not the only goal of life, but it's, tell you what, it's a lot more fun to get paid a lot for not doing as much as when you're getting, having to work your ass off for scratch.
Definitely. Yeah. So I put a link in there. It's copyhour.com/VSL. If somebody could just give me a heads up that the link is working and redirecting properly, that'd be fantastic.
You should put the HTTPS probably, because this one says not secure.
Okay. It should be secure. And there's no.
It is secure. So it's very secure.
Yes. Okay. Cool.
Wow. I'll tell you what, Derek, when I look at this, I think that is a deal, my friend. That is an incredible deal. This part of the upsell and back-end funnel stuff really is important, because if you understand this, you can just go in and, you could go get your money back from one client. And it's not a hard sale to go to somebody and be like, hey, can I help you write your upsell and, help add a few bucks to your AOV. And
yeah. All right. Do we want to hit any final Q&A here, I guess, before we jump off? We've been going for almost an hour and a half here. So
yeah, if anybody wants to ask questions, I'm happy to stick around for a little bit. Then I got to get my swole on. We talked about it. I got to go full douche. Yes, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Also, if you want to unmute yourself and ask questions, I love that too, because that's why we're on Zoom,
There's also, are your VSLs animated text slides, or are you standing in front of a whiteboard?
Any format will work, but I would test them, but you can always start with the easiest, which is PowerPoint. Whiteboard and animations still work well. I find that putting a human being on camera and then having subtitles hard-coded into the video is what works best. That's what will get you the best result, depending on the person and different things, but that can work really well. And animation and whiteboards can work really, really well. It's really understanding the principle and then using whatever medium makes sense. Do you have any good resource from going from long form copy to Keynote or even SRT subtitles to save time?
Leanne, that's Ian. Yeah, we actually have that in the actual course.
Okay, that's right. That's in week 6. Yeah, that we show you how to do that.
Yeah, it's really easy.
That's the technical side. We got a question here. Will this be the best purchase ever? Probably. It's going to be pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I think if you follow the stuff you learn in here, you'll probably do quite well. But you got to do work. It's not not an overnight riches type of thing. We got a Larry David fan in here.
Can you?
We can sort of hear whoever that is. Randall, send me an email individually, please, and I will talk to Derek about that. I can't just go throwing that out there, but yeah, there's potentially. Cool. I've gotten a funny message from the same guy twice now about if anybody saw my unit VSL, I do in fact slowly draw a penis without acknowledging it on the whiteboard. And people tend to like that. And no, I do not have a course on how to draw those. It's pretty straightforward.
Can you hear me?
It's an epic VSL. I've showed it to 10 people. Awesome. Yes, we can hear you now. Hello again. Somebody just spoke. Mystical man.
All right. Yep.
We got you now. Just go ahead and talk.
Can you hear me?
God, I love the internet. I don't even see where your voice is coming from. Normally you can see like there's a yellow outline of something. I can't even see it. So I don't know.
I think it's Meta Chi.
I think so too.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think you're just going to have to type your question, unfortunately. Sorry. All right, anybody else got any last word? Not last words, like altogether.
Okay.
No. Sorry. Yeah, just go ahead and write your question in there, Meta. So meta right now. Sorry. Cool. So we got anything else? Any final questions? Either ask them in the chat or feel free to speak up.
Vladimir wants to know your bank account numbers. How many VSLs
have you already written, and how much money have you made from them, approximately? Well, I know that the stuff that I have written amongst the companies I've worked with and for sold over $100 million worth of products. That doesn't mean that I've made that. I have probably made, how many VSLs have I written? Fuck. No, I don't know. Let's say 50, but I think like total sales that it's got to be more than that now. Something like
doesn't
that.
Include the leads that you've written.
No. With leads and everything, it's more than that. I've probably written 50 sales letters from scratch. I don't know, maybe more than that. I don't know. It's a good question. How much have I made? I've personally made a couple million probably from them over the past few years. Maybe less, maybe 1.5 or so. I don't know exactly. In revenue, more than that. And if we're talking about what I've actually gotten to take home, then yeah. So,
all right, I think that's good, man.
Well, David asked real quick, how did I first learn copywriting? I started out, I had actually written a story for something. I didn't realize it was called Copy at the time. And I ended up finding Copy Hour was really like, that was writing by hand is what really separated things for me, made me legit. Because part of it was when you start writing every day by hand, it means you're going to be successful, in my opinion, because you're taking the leap of commitment to become skillful. Most people don't ever commit to the craft. So that's what I would say. Okay, so last things, Gary, if you want to send me an email, ian@feedthewolf.com about that. And then Vladimir, did you miss the beginning of the call? Because I talked about is it a good idea to charge percentage of profits? I would go back and watch this recording. I don't think it's typically good to charge percentage of profits. And then what are your top copy books? Top copy books would be, my best one would be Great Leads. I would read that. And then is there a VSL from you that I can watch? Do you have a URL? Yeah, if you go to standupconversions.com/the unit, I think that's, I'm not trying to sell you that right now. That's probably the only I've written a lot for other people that are out in the world still, but I can't also share everything because I have NDAs and stuff. I think that should have it. Whoops, I just sent that to one person.
Vladimir, yeah, we're going to have a recording. There's going to be a recording for everybody.
That's the VSL. You can watch the, okay. Meta, my question is, what do you think about running an ad to a free white paper download, then offering a free 5 demo course, and the end of the course offering a workshop for $100, but the workshop would be a webinar offering a call? That's more of just like a general question. That's a good format. I mean, I wouldn't say a free white paper. I would definitely never call something a white paper anymore. It's just not attractive. I would say running an ad to a free 5-day email course, and at the end of the course offering a workshop. I would offer the workshop right away as well. For $100, the workshop would be a webinar free call. Yeah, you got to be a little more clear, but that's in general. Meta, that's a good format of structuring a funnel. So
cool. All right, Ian. Thank you very much, man.
This is fun.
Anyways, we're going to be sending some more emails. Everybody that's registered for this call will get those emails as well. But we're closing down in the next 5 days or so, I think. And that's that.
Yeah. And those bonuses, that call will help you rewrite the copy, and the client stuff, that is just for today only.
Today only. That's it. So today only, that means you've got 12 hours less, 10 hours.
Yeah.
10 and a half.
I feel bad for sometimes I feel bad for people who couldn't make the call today, but sometimes if they email, maybe, I don't know.
I missed the pitch because I was collecting credit card info.
I hope it was your credit card info to pay us.
Yeah, Nate, we have a redo coming in the emails, and then we've also got a page that this video will be on the top of. Yeah. So there will be plenty of opportunity to see what we've got. The structure of the course.
Tight.
All right. Thanks a lot, Ian.
Thanks, everyone. All right.